Stanford at Arizona State. Little tidbits on this game. We got both teams off of a loss, and also it's not a short week. Neither team played this past Saturday. Also, a thing I noticed when breaking down this game, all three of ASU's losses by one score. Interesting to see, has Herm Edwards really turned this program around in just year one? Or are they a little bit of a fraud here out in the Pac-12, going against a pretty good Stanford team this year? Ed, I believe you have definitely a postgraduate degree from Stanford. Not sure exactly what it's in, but your alma mater of sorts. How would you look to bet Stanford versus ASU this week or on Thursday?
Yeah, Stanford has coming off a couple rough games. They had no right winning the game at Oregon. Really played terribly at Notre Dame. KJ Costello forgot who he was against Utah. So it's been a rough patch for them. I think that usually means that the markets are gonna fall a little bit too far away from them. I'm not yet a believer in Arizona State with Herm Edwards and what he's doing in that program. Obviously, they got a nice win against Michigan State. But then it was a pretty perfect spot to take San Diego State the week after. So I think you're seeing a lot of market indecision about both these teams. My numbers I think Stanford's a 2-point favorite right now. My numbers have a couple more than that, 3-4 points there. I definitely lean towards Stanford in this game. I think KJ Costello gets back on it. Obviously, it'd be great if they had Bryce Love as well. He's hurt. But what I've seen from Stanford this year, like other teams are just stacking the box to stop Bryce Love, which makes a lot of sense. So KJ Costello has to play well. I think he can. I don't think we're going to see the same Costello that came out in that Utah game. I would definitely lean towards Stanford on the side, even though they're on the road.
Yeah, and it mostly opened at 2. It's been bought up to 2.5. So you and the market are in agreement here. We got 51.5 the total in this game. Big man, what about you? Thursday night, pretty big game here in the Pac-12. How would you look to bet it?
Yeah, I think before we get into it, I think it's important to discuss the bad decision by Bryce Love to stay another year. I would have left Stanford if I was him. He's had a terrible season. And I know, look, people will say, well, he's injured and whatever. It still hurts. I mean, it still hurts that he has not been effective. And you have to respect that they're 4-2. Ed made a point of they'd stacked the box. Costello's actually been a bit of a weapon. Our Siegel-Whiteside, they can actually throw the ball a little bit, which has helped. But, you look at them on the road. I mean, obviously you go up and beat Oregon, but probably shouldn't have won that game. I've not been overly impressed by Stanford on the road, but I have been impressed by Arizona State at home. I think this was a great hire, bringing in Herm Edwards. I believe in the guy. I think he has some talent. I think this team is different. They're more believable now when they play. You don't worry about them as much. Look, they've lost to some opponents that they probably should lose to. And will they lose to Stanford? I don't know, maybe. But I like Manny Wilkins. I like N'Keal Harry. If they both play in this game, I'm going to look towards taking the underdog. Drew, you made the point about all the losses were very close. They could have went either way. If you look at all those games, they were in it till the end. I'm not seeing a ton from Stanford right now that really impresses me. The run game has been non-existent for the most part. I'm actually quite confident that Arizona State can do a pretty nice job here at home. They're awful weak. They had a little bit of time to prepare. I don't like betting against Stanford, but if I get a full 3 here, I would take the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I think Big Man makes some good points. And Ed, I want to get your opinion on Herm Edwards. In the offseason, it was kind of like the trendy thing just to say it was a terrible pick. I was in the minority saying give the guy a shot, just because he's, in his 60s? I don't know. I always felt like a 19-year-old guy. You relate the same with a 65-year-old that you do with a 45-year-old. I don't see age as that big of a problem. It's more about the man and how he recruits. How do you feel about Herm Edwards? Do you think that they could actually be a buy low opportunity here going forward?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't a fan of the hire. I agree with you guys. We got to give the guy a chance. We obviously seen some results already with the Michigan State, but he's the personality. He's the talking head. Actually got a chance to talk to him at the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference one year. Talked a little Miracle of the Meadowlands, which was pretty cool. The guy's all personality. I don't think he's drawing up X's and O's and game planning with, the top elite coaches by any means, but his job is to motivate, his job is to recruit and to hire good assistant coaches, good coordinators. So, obviously the jury is always going to still be out after 6 games. Interested. We should talk about Scott Frost a little bit later in the show too, but it's never, you can't make a decision after that long.
I think the great thing about, and what Ed said about, I think nowadays, Drew, you go in and get the right coordinators, you can do quite fine. I mean, it's all about how do
Yep.
you get kids to commit to you? How do you get the parents to commit to you? And you look at the landscape in college football and college basketball. Kids want to make sure they feel good, they feel safe, and so do parents. A lot of these kids have to, they go into these households. I mean, who would you rather have, leading your son? Urban Meyer as an ethical person, or Herm Edwards? I know, look, if you want to win, you go play with Urban Meyer, and that's all fine and dandy. But I'd feel comfortable with my son playing for Herm Edwards. Even look at a guy like Ed Orgeron. Ed Orgeron is not a great coach. I think we all know that, but the kids love him. Parents trust him. He's an ornery guy. He's a likable guy. Is he going to win you tons of games? Yeah, I mean, but it doesn't have a lot to do with him. It's because he's a great guy and he's a good recruiter. In the scheme of things, if you can have good assistant coaches and a good recruiter, you just let him sit back and be the mouthpiece, like Ed said, and be the personality. I think Herm has won. He's gotten these kids to believe pretty quick.
Yeah, I
I'd be
agree with a
interested,
lot
and,
of what you
bring
guys
up a good
say. No,
and
go ahead. Ed.
Orgeron's done a good job keeping Dave Aranda there as a DC. That side of the ball is clearly getting it done. So yeah, I mean, there is a formula for these types of things. I'm not a Coach O fan. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. I think it's a pretty good year to fade LSU. But it's not like these guys can't succeed. I mean, Dabo Swinney's not exactly drawing up plays for that team either. He's built a culture there. He hires great assistants, great coordinators, and look what they've done.
Ed, I know you're more of a numbers guy, and we'll get on to it to the other games, but I do want to get on this point because we brought up the coordinators and how important that is. I actually think like guys like Lincoln Riley. I know that you're a big numbers guy. You probably like that more of the X's and O's head coaches. I think it's actually better when the head coach steps away and lets the coordinators call the plays, all of it. So I'm not a big fan of an actual head coach being in every single play. Great X's and O's. Sure, it's fine, but I don't think it's that big of a benefit. We see it with Willie Taggart. Having to call the plays at Florida State, I think, is actually an anchor on the program. He needs to give that up to Walt Bell and be more of a management figure. Do you kind of factor that aspect in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very team-by-team kind of thing, right? I mean, you have the situation in Michigan where there's no coordinator, and they're just kind of calling plays by committee between Harbaugh and Pep Hamilton, and God knows who, probably Ed Warner is getting in there right now. That's working right now. I can imagine other situations where, I mean, I'm still not high on the LSU offense and what they're doing. I don't even remember the coordinator's name there, but he's not Matt Canada and what he was coming off that year off of Pitt last year. The LSU offense was pretty good last year with Matt Canada. So I really think you got to take a team by team basis. You got to see what the results are. Try to filter out the small, the noise from the signal that we get for how these programs run. I don't think there's a one size fits all for any team in terms of what the head coach is doing.
Okay, and Ed, you're liking Stanford in this game that we were talking about, -2, 2.5, wherever it's at. And Big Man, how are you feeling about Stanford ASU?
Yeah, I'm looking towards taking the dog here.
Okay, all right. And as far as Bryce Love, Big Man's comment on Bryce Love making the bad decision, do you agree with that, Ed? Coming back?
I mean, I'm going to sound really pretentious saying this, but he's a kid that's got more than football going on in his life. At least that's what he says publicly. Wants to be a doctor. He's a hum bio major out at Stanford, which my same program that my wife went through. So I don't know. I mean, maybe he's being genuine in terms of not worrying about the money and knowing he's going to get his head beaten in the NFL anyways, and enjoying what he can now. It's all kind of about our priorities, I guess. I don't know. Maybe he's not being genuine. But anyways, I don't want to sound too pretentious about this, but I'm not ready to knock the guy. I mean, Andrew Luck stayed next year at Stanford too. He's doing all right, minus the bum shoulder this year.
I guess the point would be then, why are you playing football then? I mean, isn't the goal to go to the NFL and be a star? I just think, for me, like, a lot of people gave certain players college basketball a lot of shit for that this year. I mean, you got to go, I feel like, when it suits you. If you're generally going to lose value by staying. But again, that's an interesting point by you, Ed. I mean, something that I think, out of Stanford, I guess you got to consider. Maybe he does see what the NFL is down the road, and he'll go make a lot of money being a doctor too. So he could either go and be a doctor and not get his head beat in, or he can go to the NFL and make really good money and be rich as well, and have to worry about that down the road. So that's an interesting point. You
Yeah,
never really consider that with a lot of these kids.
yeah. I think a lot
And
of
big
these
man,
guys
just
like
to
they go to the. Oh,
yeah,
sorry. Just
go ahead,
to say,
Ed.
like a lot of these guys, the NFL is a good way to make some decent money, so you can do what you want to do. John Urschel was an NFL lineman, played for the Ravens, was able to, bank some cash, get a little bit of a pension payment from the NFL before he went on to go be a mathematician. So, I think you kind of got to take it year by year. Every individual is different. It's hard to blanket say this is a right or wrong choice. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and big man, I do agree with you on the running back position more times than not. It's you should go, but at the quarterback position, I think there's a lot of scenarios where a kid will benefit from staying an extra year.
Yeah,
All
I've
right, guys.
noticed it doesn't seem that September work, but I got you.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.